Hi everybody, it's Mackenzie. I am a Tobii Dynavox representative in Chicago, and I'm going to show you how to create a new user and get Communicator 5 set up in the Tobii Dynavox Communicator 5 software. So, right here on my screen, I have a similar page set to what will appear the first time you launch the Communicator 5 icon. Once you open it, you're going to go in under user profile name and give your user a profile name. So I'm going to call mine Mackenzie M. And under voice, I can change the voice that I'm using. And under input method, I can change the input method that my user will be using. So if they're using eye gaze, I would select gaze interaction. If you're using a touchscreen device and the user is using touch with their fingers or a mouse, you could select touch or mouse. If your user is using mouse dwell, something like a joystick or a head mouse, you could select mouse dwell. And if your person is using a switch scanning setting, you could select switch scanning. I'm going to just keep it on gaze interaction. And say next. And then here you get to make a decision about your user's communication ability level. So if the user you're working with is an emergent communicator, they're just starting out with communicating, you might want to select emerging communication. If your user is putting symbols together to make sentences, you might want to choose symbol communication. In this particular instance, I'm going to show you how to set this up for somebody who is communicating with stored messages and writing out sentences on a keyboard. We're going to call that person a text communicator. So I've selected that box and I'm going to say next. And you can read over this information about the quick menu. It's quite helpful. And then I'm going to say finish. And this is going to have a bit of a delay because my computer is setting up a brand new user profile. So essentially it's getting me out, it's switching me from my old user, my previous user, to a new user now. So just be patient and then it will load up. And now we are in my new user profile. And this page here, we're going to call it our home page, and you can see there's a lot of different tiles across the entire page. This is where you can really start customizing this for your user. If your user is not somebody who's going to Facebook or Skype or play games on the device, you can get rid of some of this stuff. If your person needs some other tools, you can add more tiles to help that person use the device to the fullest extent possible. So I'm going to show you how to edit my homepage. I'm going to go ahead and set this up for somebody who maybe doesn't want Facebook and Skype and cameras and music players. So I'm going to say edit homepage, and I'm going to select Skype, and then I'm going to select remove, and I'm going to remove Skype. I'm going to select these games down here, because I can't ever figure out how to win, and I don't really understand how to play them. I'm going to get rid of these products or these tiles because I don't think I need them right now. And now I can go in and I can add more tiles. And a lot of people don't realize that if you go up here to add page sets, there are actually a lot more pages that you can add to your homepage. So if I select add page sets, it's important to note that I am using Communicator 5.4. If you're using a previous version of the software, your page right here might look a little bit different. You may just want to update to 5.4, which you can do for free. Under text communication, my favorite page set for someone who's using this device to communicate is the speaking with phrases 7x5. So I always come in and add this for anybody who is a text-based communicator. And then down under tools, there's a tool called alarm. And this is essentially, it's going to be a tile so that when the user hits it, it's going to sound a loud sound, so that when someone hits it, they can get the attention of someone else that is maybe in a different room or in a different part of the house, and the user wants to get their attention. So I'm going to pull on the alarm feature, and you can notice I just selected alarm and I said add to homepage. You can look around here and see that there's a lot of other tiles. You can kind of sort through them and see if any of them sound interesting. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to hit the X. And again, I'm going to hit the X in the top right corner. And now you can see from my home page, I have some extra tiles down at the bottom. So if I go down and add or select speaking with phrases 7x5, this is a really nice way to lay out the messages that you want to pre-store in the user's device. So you can see in the top left corner it says categories, and I can add as many categories here as I want. I'm going to use this edit feature over on the right side where there's a pencil, and I can create a new category. So I'm going to say add new category, and I'm going to create a category called Talking with Friends. Then I'm going to select the green checkmark box down in the bottom right corner. And now you can see I've added a new category called Talking with Friends. I can say stop editing, and then I can actually go into that category. And now there's just a bunch of blank spaces for me to add messages that are important. So I can say edit, add a new phrase, and I can say, hey girl, what's up? I can add another phrase. How is your dog? Or how are your kids doing? I can write whatever message that would be helpful for me to pre-store. And I can say stop editing. And now I can go and I can have a message pre-stored so that if one of my friends comes over, I can have these messages ready to go. And my friend doesn't have to wait for me to type out every single message using the keyboard. However, it's impossible to predict every single thing you might want to say to your friends. So you can also go down to the bottom right corner where it says type to speak. And you can access a keyboard where you can generate novel messages. So I could say, tell me about your night. And then I could speak that message. And my battery is running low. So occasionally I'm working with individuals who are not familiar with this layout of a keyboard. We call this a QWERTY style layout just because these letters up here in the top row spell the word QWERTY. If I want an alphabetical layout or a keyboard with larger buttons, I can go ahead, I can right click, or if you're using a touchscreen device, you can click and hold. If I go into my advanced settings, I can go to my keyboards and language. And under keyboard settings, I can choose from a variety of different keyboards, and there's a little blurb about each one about how that keyboard works. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it a regular keyboard so that I keep word and phrase prediction. But instead of the QWERTY layout, I'm going to choose ABC. And now when I hit OK and I hit X and I go to type to speak, you'll notice that I no longer have the traditional keyboard layout. I now have an alphabetical layout. So you can play with those keyboards and figure out which one works best for you or your client. And the last thing I always do when I'm setting up a device for a text communicator is I can right click anywhere on the screen, access my advanced settings, and under the System tab, I really like to enable the status bar so that my user can always see the battery life, the time, the Wi-Fi connection, the volume. I like so that that bar to come up so that the user can see all of that stuff because all of that stuff is usually pretty important. I also usually check this button that says Start with Windows so that anytime my device turns on, my Communicator 5 software just automatically launches. This kind of reduces it minimizes the process, and it reduces the steps by one step so that the user can just have the Communicator 5 software launch as soon as Windows launches. That is a quick overview of how I would set up a text-based user in Communicator 5 software, but of course there are a million different ways you could configure this, but those are just some of my favorite features.